Hey guys, remember when I said in my last video that I was planning to move my home studio, which is outdoors, indoors before hurricane season? I figured I could be lazy for a few more weeks and squeeze out one last video out there before moving everything inside. Well, nature had other plans. This is what my studio looked like the morning of June 12th, and this is what it looked like by 3 p.m. that afternoon. So a rainstorm came by. Soaked. This fell over. This was the first to go. I had to stop the kiln from firing. It was thankfully not in the middle of the fire. Everything's wet. The pieces are messed up, that's for sure. This came crashing down while I was trying to hold it up. I was gonna move the studio indoors, but it looks like I was too late. Kind of came out of nowhere. Like the forecast didn't even say it was gonna storm today. Yeah. We'll assess the damage more when the rain stops. I guess that's one way to bring this season to an end. So I am in some new surrounds. Welcome to the new YAYA Ceramics home pottery setup. It's pretty much the same, just on this side of the wall. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Catherine, but my family calls me YAYA, so you can call me that too. Right, so my studio has a bit of a new look. Honestly, I'm really happy with the change. It's nice being in a temperature-controlled environment, for one. This was actually the same spot that I had my wheel set up in right when I got it, so in a way, I've come full circle. It's kind of nice I'm back here. Now, the motivation for this video. As you may know, I've decided to launch my own pottery shop. The problem is, I don't feel like I'm good enough at pottery to sell my pieces yet. And hear me out, I don't think this is just an imposter syndrome thing, which it partially is. I genuinely want to push myself to grow and improve more before I start putting my work out there and asking people to buy it. Lately though, I haven't been setting aside the time for mindful and structured practice. There's just so much going on, and when I do get on the wheel, I feel this pressure to actually create something good, which kind of gets in the way of learning. So I'm doing something different this week. I'm committing to 1 week, 5 days of focused practice so I can get better at pottery fast. And I'm gonna be using this book to help me do it. It's titled 战少林工作法 陶瓷拉坯成型5步法. Translation, Master Zhan's 5-step method to ceramic wheel throwing. It's a lean paperback, just 73 pages, packed with step-by-step techniques and diagrams for throwing off the hump. Straightforward enough to get through in a week, I think. There are 5 main chapters. My game plan is to tackle roughly 1 chapter every day and just spend 2 to 3 hours on this per day. I'll try to follow the instructions as closely as I can and see how far I get. But first, a little bit about the author. This book is written by Zhan Shaolin, Master Zhan, a master thrower in Jingdezhen, China, what many call the porcelain capital of the world. He's known across China not only for his incredible skill and artistry, but also his teaching techniques. This book is based on the same curriculum he's used to train over 150 apprentices and thousands more students that have come through his school in Jingdezhen. For context, I was one of those students. Having been a student of Master Zhan's, a lot of what's in this book I probably have some level of familiarity with. But what I'm hoping for this week is to go back to basics, pick up some tips and tricks that I might have missed the first time around, and just let myself be a learner again. And I want to prove to myself that I can improve in just 1 week with a little bit of practice every day. Today is Monday, June 23rd. Today's just gonna be chill. I'm gonna review the table of contents and read chapter 1 or lecture 1, and also plan out my practice schedule for the week. But before we get into it, I haven't had my matcha today yet, so let's go do that with the new matcha set that I made. Today's matcha is coconut water matcha. I've never tried this before, but I've seen it floating around. I like both things, so I think they should play well together. I'm going to be using one of 2 new matcha sets that I pulled out of the kiln last week. I made these during the studio tour video that I just did, and I'm honestly so happy with the way that they came out. This is the first set. Here is the whisk stand demonstration. The inside bristles slot in so nicely. Can't forget my scoop rest. The glaze combo is this like variegated green glaze over this satin cream alabaster color with these blue and green crystals. You can see where the glaze has run and gooped, and I honestly really enjoy that effect. It's so pretty how the glaze is melted together. It looks like a watercolor. My YAYA kind of got covered up by the glaze, but you can see it peeking through. What I'll start doing is listing all the products I use or mention in my videos in the description so you can know exactly what I'm using to get these results. And this is the second set. It's a totally different vibe. I use a black Engobe to turn my white porcelain black. I wanted to experiment with the contrast in finishes, and I think it's such a striking look. It's minimal and monochromatic, but still really interesting. Another good look. The black engobe has some sparkle in it. You can see those catching the light. The shape of this chawan is just so cute and round. Honestly, I think this is my favorite of the two, but today I kind of want to use this set. Got really cloudy outside all of a sudden. Lots of ice. I'm low on matcha. It's thundering. Ooh, that's nice. Oh, so good. The mood in this room has changed. I'm gonna take this back to my workbench in my studio and start reading. This is basically what happened the afternoon my studio blew away, but like 10 times worse. You still like this red crown? I need to go inside. So because this book is fully in Chinese and I can't read Chinese, I've had to go word by word and annotate everything. That, to no one's surprise, is painfully slow. So in order to not spend a year reading this, I've moved on from annotating the book, you can see where I've stopped, to enlisting the help of Google Translate. Wheel throwing is a ceramic forming method that uses centrifugal force. Wheel throwing has become more and more rich in connotation in today's highly developed civilization. It is no longer a simple method of making porcelain, but has been endowed with a higher level of spiritual and cultural meaning. So that brings me through the introduction that delves into the history of pottery in China and the first lecture. 拉坯技艺 概述, which means overview of wheel throwing. I really like where it ends off. Let me read it again. The working principle of the wheel throwing machine is put the clay on the wheel, the mechanism drives the wheel to rotate and also drives the clay on the wheel to rotate in the same direction as the wheel. Two hands act on the clay and the force of both hands correspond so that the clay will produce changes in the form of lifting, contraction, and expansion under the action of the internal and external forces. When you put it that way, it's really so simple. Thinking back to when I encountered challenges when throwing, it really helped me to step back and think in the most pared down terms about what forces were at play. If I can just approach my week with that kind of simplicity, I think I can go a long way. Good morning. It's Tuesday, June 24th, 9:25 in the morning. On the docket today is the first half of lecture 2. Lecture 2 is a bit of a hefty one, so I'm gonna split it into 2. And the focus of today's section is wedging. I know, not the most glamorous part of pottery, but if I'm being honest with myself, I kind of need this. Back at school in Jingdezhen, I was taught the ram's head method of wedging, but I rarely, if ever, put it to use because the school had a pug mill which mixed and extruded the clay in ready-to-use logs. It was all too easy for me to skip the step of wedging entirely and completely neglect the skill as a result. Fast forward to now, I find myself reluctant to wedge sometimes. I've also never learned to spiral wedge, and that's covered in this lecture, so hopefully by the end of the day, I'll have a brand new skill to add to my toolbox. I have the translated text of the book open on my laptop. I'll reference that as well as the diagrams in this book as I work through the next few days. All right, it's time to touch some clay. Wedging the clay. In the process of throwing, it is extremely important to first prepare the clay by controlling the density and humidity of the clay. Ultimately, the clay is formed into a ball of clay without cracks and faults, and the dryness, wetness, softness, and hardness are are uniform. Wedging the clay is a good way to get familiar with the nature of the clay and find the feeling of the clay. I have some unwedged reclaim that I have saved up over the past few days in preparation for this exercise. More than enough to work with here. There are two common methods of kneading clay. The ram's head method is the first one. This is the one I theoretically know how to do. I'm gonna start with about half of this amount. Place the clay on the table and pat it into a long shape to facilitate kneading with both hands. Okay, I can do that. Hold both ends of the clay ball with your left and right hands at the same time and use your palms to push the middle part of the clay ball toward the table, then use your fingers to pull the clay ball toward the top again. So the idea is you push and roll the clay forward using both palms, then lift and pull it back towards yourself and drop. Press and roll forward, lift, rotate back, drop, and repeat. Does this look like a ram's head? It looks kind of like an elephant. My concern is that I'm not actually circulating the clay properly and just like moving the outside of the clay, not getting at the inside. If I'm doing this properly, how long should it take me? Like, how many repetitions? I'm gonna do something that's good practice, but I've never really done before, which is slice open my clay to check inside. Wonder what it's looking like. Okay, that actually tells me a lot. So it's pretty devoid of air pockets. It does have a couple, but I think what's really cool is that I can actually see the circulation pattern of the clay. Some of the reclaim was a little discolored because of mold. I'm seeing where it's being drawn underneath and where it's swirling inside. I'll know that this clay is successfully wedged when I can't see the streaks of color. Let's keep going. One of the first things Master Zhan discusses in this chapter before he gets into any of the techniques is why he developed the methodologies in this book at all. I feel like this is important, so let's not skip it. How is it looking? You can still see the two tones, but it's getting there. In short, traditional Chinese wheel throwing was passed down through oral instruction and demonstration. And while this sustained the craft for thousands of years, it was also a highly flawed system for transmitting knowledge. It had steep learning curves, resulted in low technical proficiency, and had high barriers to entry for creative expression. No more visible streaks. Master Zhan witnessed apprentices spending years just getting a grapple on the basics, and by the time they had technical control, they had already lost a lot of the drive and passion they had for the craft. So he broke things down into highly teachable steps and was able to flatten the learning curve. And as a result, more people can now learn and access Chinese pottery. Place your two palms on the front of the mud and continue to squeeze it diagonally forward and finally form a ball that's thin at both ends. So I'm kind of just like rolling it like I would dumpling dough or something. This is what we're aiming for, like a long log. Thick in the middle, thin on the ends. Use both hands to push towards the center, so we're bringing it back now. We're there now. Hold the top with both hands and turn the outer edge of the bottom on a flat surface to make the middle of the bottom protrude. In this way, when the mud ball is thrown on the wheel, it will fit the wheel more closely. Normally, this is where you take the clay to the wheel to start throwing, but we're gonna bide our time, set this aside, and continue with wedging. Let me do this next one by slicing and checking frequently throughout the process to actually monitor the clay's change over time. Stage 1, raw, unfiltered reclaim. That's what we're dealing with. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, strangely excited for this. 25. 50. At 50, this is what it looks like. 75. 100. Almost. 125. Oops. Very small discrepancies I can see. So let's say 150. Putting everything into this. This is the one, you guys. Now you know. Takes 150 repetitions to get a ball this size to be perfectly wedged. One thing I am kind of surprised by is the air bubbles actually get popped pretty early on. It's really mixing the rest of the clay well that takes the most time. I don't know my muscle groups. I don't work out, you guys, but this part of my left arm really hurts. Voila. This is great. I feel more solid already. Ugh. Next up is spiral wedging. In Chinese, it's actually called the chrysanthemum method. Such a pretty name. I started teaching private lessons. Nothing crazy. It's for like kids in middle school. This is actually clay the student went through in the last lesson. Stand up the flat clay block, hold both sides of the clay block with both hands, lean forward, hold the clay with your left hand and press down with your right palm. Like that. Ow, I just squished my left hand. So right hand presses, left lifts and rotates. I'm definitely getting a spiral going, but I'm having a hard time visualizing this just from the description. I think I'm gonna look up a tutorial. Flooring seems to apply pressure with both hands, whereas the book says to apply pressure with your right hand. I think I'm gonna try both and see what works. Forward, rotate, forward, rotate, forward, rotate. Oh, looks like a mess. Back to Master Zhan's way, pressing forward with the right. I think I'm putting more air into this. Do you think it would be easier for me to do this with a larger lump of clay? It seems like his right fingers are like passing the clay to the left, like this. Forward, passes it. Oh, that's good, right? You get a better rotation. I feel like I'm just dragging it right now. I'm not gonna stop until I get some semblance of like a chrysanthemum here. This part's so like, it feels like dead weight. It's here that gets stuck to the board. So I'm like rotating from this axis and it just keeps going this way. So what did I do to fix that? Ditch that. Okay, but like, that's something. Looks like an ammonite. I'm still having issues with the clay running away from me, but I think I'm starting to get the rhythm. There's something I haven't quite worked out about it, but it's quite satisfying and fun. Collecting the mud. Use your right hand to increase the amplitude of kneading the mud so that the fold becomes larger and larger and finally forms a cone. Ugh, that's gonna trap a lot of air, isn't it? Oh, my arms are burning. I haven't checked to see what this looks like on the inside. Nice! Even though the path here was filled with some questionable technique, I still got here. I'm gonna wedge this back together and I think that's it for today. The spirals are starting to look a little more crisp. With both the ram's head method and the chrysanthemum method, they rely on the same general mechanism. There's one step where force is applied and then another step where you reposition, and that repositioning is key. It's where I'm having the most trouble with my spiral wedging. This clay feels great in my hands. I'm itching to keep going. The next section has us on the wheel learning centering and the titular 5-step method, but I do want to pace myself so I have focus and energy for the next 3 days. And I'll have plenty of opportunities to keep practicing my wedging throughout this week as I prep new clay for each exercise. One question I have is, why teach both methods? When would you use one over the other? Is it just a preference thing? In Florian Gadsby's video, he said that spiral wedging was the fastest. I wish I could ask Master Zhan for an answer directly. If you guys have any insights, feel free to let me know in the comments, but maybe the answer will become clear to me as the week goes on. I'm gonna bag this clay up and see you tomorrow. Good afternoon, it's Wednesday, June 25th, 12:18. Yesterday my phone was totally listening to me because I saw not one, but 3 separate reels on how to spiral wedge. One in particular by Moon Dobang was really helpful. I'll get a chance to apply what I learned when I re-wedge my clay at the end of today's practice. For now though, we can get started right away with the clay that I have already prepped from yesterday. Today we are doing the second half of lecture 2, which covers another fundamental skill in pottery, centering, and moves right into the 5-step method for throwing off the hump. In comparison to yesterday, I'm in much more familiar territory. I am aware of a few mistakes that I tend to make, so if anything, today is going to be a great opportunity for me to practice correcting those. Let's go get set up with my laptop and my book and my clay at the wheel. Clipping my mic onto my trimming tool. Hair up so it's out of the way. After wedging the clay, you need to center the clay. That is, fix the clay ball in the center of the wheel through the cooperation of both hands, supporting both arms with the inner thighs. Use both hands to evenly apply force to pull the clay from bottom to top and from top to bottom repeatedly. Finally, the clay ball is pulled into a cylindrical shape and stabilized on the axis of the wheel without any shaking. If the center is not set well, it will be difficult to proceed to the next step of pottery throwing. So no pressure, but how you center basically makes or breaks everything else. Adjust the sitting posture so that the elbows of both arms can be held against the thighs. Using the thigh when throwing not only keeps the arm stable, but also saves effort. I have gotten a couple of comments in the past that I'm sitting too high and that I'm gonna develop back problems if I keep throwing like this. I genuinely appreciate the concern. But the major advantage to sitting this high is you get to anchor yourself with your thighs. Without the inside of your thighs to brace your elbows against and borrow force from, you would have to exert a lot more force to get the same results. There are many legitimate ways to throw. Just do what works for you and keeps your body pain-free. But thanks for watching out for me. Start the wheel. Let's see if I can get it in the center. Nope. One day, I'm going to land it in the dead center every time. Today is not that day. Keep your hands steady and press the clay downwards evenly. After pressing the clay ball down to form a cone, hold the clay ball tightly with both hands at the base and press it inwards from the horizontal direction at the same time. Then, using your thighs as a fulcrum and pushing your arms inward, lift the clay ball at the bottom at a uniform speed. And this is referring to what we call in English, coning up. So to rehash that, Master Zhan says that the first step after you throw your clay on the wheel is to press down on the top and stabilize this top part from wobbling. Then it's to move your hands to the bottom and stabilize the bottom. So top, bottom, like a sandwich. Wrists straight, fingers firm but relaxed. Left thumb is upright and right thumb is tucked next to the pointer. Wet the hands. Press the top, feeling it start to get under control. Then move to the bottom. Let it rotate and start to feel it stabilize as well. Okay, with that, we've already done a lot of work. Because throwing off the hump involves centering a larger mass of clay, it can feel harder to move the clay around. Sometimes I end up just vaguely moving it up and down without much intent. Technically it gets the job done, but today I'm gonna try to be a little more efficient. Instead of just going through the motions, I'm aiming to move a lot of clay in each pass. My left thumb stays upright to stabilize the column of clay as I move up, and my right thumb helps carve in the clay and distribute it. They work in tandem to move the clay. To cone down, place your left hand on the middle of the left side of the clay and place your right palm in a curve shape on the upper end of the clay column. Then gently push forward diagonally at an angle of about 15 degrees. Get this narrower. Let's try that, pushing diagonally forward at 15 degrees. Kind of lost it halfway down there. Let's try that again. I think I could be doing a slightly better job of getting more of this clay that's stuck at the base. Something I'm noticing with this book is that it doesn't go into every single nuance that I learned in school. You can only fit so much in 73 pages. You'd need a 500-page tome to cover all that. But I feel super lucky because I can combine the knowledge that is in this book with everything that I was taught at school. I think this is a better angle. One more. It's so satisfying how the clay just tunnels down and compresses on itself. I feel like that one really locked it in place. After the center is determined, the direction and rhythm of the clay ball are consistent with the direction and rhythm of the wheel. When you put your finger lightly on it, it will be in a static state. Ready for the next step. I'm gonna pull this into a taller, thinner shape. Put some of that aside for safety. This is where Master Zhan introduces the 5-step method for throwing small objects off the hump. Small here refers to anything that is short of a giant jar. So your cups, bowls, small platters, teapots, flower pots, all of those are small objects. Here is really where throwing off the hump differs from just throwing a single form. You're working with this big mound of clay, and you only take the portion you need from the top. That's the first of 5 steps, evaluating how much to take and separating that amount of clay from the rest of the hump. I'm going to take about that much. Not too little, not too much. What I was doing there was using this part of my palm to clamp the selected amount of clay, applying pressure at this junction and incorporating a slight upward trajectory to further separate the clay ball on top from the rest of the hump. I gotta make sure that my hands and my arms stay super steady. Same goes for the rest of the steps to follow. As much as I'd like to go on to step 2 with this puck, I'm going to cut it open to check the shape, and I'm gonna compare it with what I see in the book. I think I'm gonna have to give up on keeping this book dry. Take a look at figures 15 and 16, and this is what I produced. I think that looks pretty close, and that's going on the windowsill as a reference. All caught up. Step 2 is pressing this little ball into what the book calls a pancake shape, and this is done like so, by supporting with the right hand and pressing with the fleshy part of your left thumb in the center and moving out, gradually lessening the pressure as you move to the edge. So you end up with a shape like this. Let's cut this one open and see. Another sacrifice, figures 17 and 18. Compare what I have. I think I can go a little flatter actually. I think this is a better pancake. And now on to step 3, opening. Put the thumbs of both hands together and the rest of the fingers cover the outside of the mud ball. The thumbs of both hands go deep into the center of the mud ball until it is close to the bottom of the mud column, about 2 centimeters. The thumbs of both hands expand outward at the same time to make the inner contour U-shape. At every step in this process, it's important to add slip or have enough slip anywhere your hands are meeting clay, and especially where you're applying pressure. Down, down, down. Is that 2 centimeters? Maybe. Then opening outward. So the bottom should be almost flat. I think we're doing pretty good. And the inside contour should be U-shaped. Whoa, I just got some clay on my face. How's that? 20 is what we want. I think that's pretty spot on. Oh, and I forgot. Dare I say, this is right on. Here is where the text seems to skip a couple sub-steps, but they are still included in the figures. What we usually do after this is adjust this shape, like so. And then like so. So we took that shape that was wider than it was tall and made it more square. So to go over that again, this motion heightens the walls, and this motion rounds out the bottom curve again. This is all done to shape this blank as optimally as possible for pulling. We still have that flat bottom, a curved inside profile, and thick, even walls ready for pulling. We have arrived at the pulling step. Pulling is the key to the formation of the vessel. Place the left hand on the clay and hold the clay with the thumb and other 4 fingers of the right hand. As the wheel rotates, the clay is effectively pulled up from the bottom to the top to achieve the height and thickness required for the shape. The pulling process should be done in one go, but do not use too much force, otherwise the clay will be broken. The top should be relatively thinner and the bottom should be relatively thicker, so that the center of gravity can be stable. Now, pulling has always been a little tricky for me. As someone who's been doing pottery for less than 1 year, it can still be hit or miss. Pulling is a delicate skill that requires a lot of practice to get good at. So let's just give it the first go. Okay, not my best. You know what? Let me grab the camera off the stand and show you what I'm talking about. Take a look inside. Do you see those concentric rings that show how my hand traveled up the clay? And you see how it breaks right about there? That's where my hand lost the nice rhythm that I had going on. That doesn't necessarily spell disaster. I still made it to the top. A little bumpy here, but I still kept going, and that's the key. If you stay still, you're gonna wear the clay thin where you're stationary, and you'll probably end up worse off than if you just kept going. Not my best, but definitely not my worst. Should we cut this one open? After I clean it up a little. Wow, my tripod is a total mess. I'm running out of surface area. Finally, we're at step 5, which is to shape and customize this however you like. Proportions between the mouth, neck, shoulders, abdomen must be appropriate. The spatial structure should be reasonable. The outer clay lines of the shape are adjusted to make the lines full and smooth, and at the same time, it must leave room for trimming. Wow, lots to keep in mind. There's a term in Chinese called baoman, which kind of means like full and round, and that's used to describe shapes that just have a very pleasing look about them. Before I went to China and learned pottery, I didn't really have a deep appreciation for classic shapes. I kind of thought they were boring. Now that I've had experience throwing, I realize how hard it is to achieve a shape that's visually and energetically harmonious and that just flows from top to bottom. The next 2 lectures actually delve into how to make specific forms like Engobe, as well as how to use ribs and tools to aid in shaping. So I'm not going to do anything crazy today. I'm just going to use my fingers to lightly refine this shape. And just for the sake of it, I'm also going to cut this one open. A couple things I think I did well. Walls are pretty even. I have a good amount of extra clay here to support the rest of the wall. And the main thing I can improve on is maintaining control throughout the pull. You can see here, there's a slight bulge in thickness. I thought I'd be fast enough to catch it. One known error I often run into while doing my pulls is as the pull continues and the diameter of the opening keeps widening, my left hand struggles to keep opening up with it. I have to keep widening it like this and this and this, and it just can't keep up, which causes the clay to wobble and twist and my right hand to lose control of the grip it has on the clay. That's something I really have to pay attention to with these practice pulls, keeping my left hand tracking the shape as it expands and making sure my right hand maintains a steady pinch even at the top. Now we remove it from the wheel. The book explains that there are 2 ways to do this. One is called the hidden foot. Put the index finger and middle finger of the right hand together and flat. Put the index finger and middle finger of the left hand together and in a scissor shape. Place them at the bottom of the blank and apply force downward and inward to separate the blank from the hump. Until the cup separates itself naturally from the wheel. Grabbing the clay from the bottom, maintaining a steady grip, relaxing the left hand, letting it open naturally. This is good, this is good, this is good. Doing good, doing good, doing good. Wow, that felt so effortless compared to my previous pull. I wasn't even tracking the shape that closely. What I did instead was I let those points of contact actually leave the surface of the clay and give it room to expand. So the only part of my left hand that was really right up against the clay was actually my pointer, whose job it is to compress the rim of the clay. That felt like a breakthrough. I don't actually need to be like up against the clay, hugging it at every point. I actually just need to give it room to breathe. I can't believe it took me this long to realize. Quick smooth out of the surface. Clean out the inside as well. I like to use a sponge sometimes for this. I know I said I wasn't gonna do anything crazy and wait till the next lessons to learn how to customize shapes, but I had to put my own spin on it. The other method for removing pieces from the wheel is called the visible foot. Put the index finger and middle finger of the right hand together and upright. Oops, that's slipped my sock. The index and middle of the left hand in a scissor shape again, and just like with the other technique, place them on the bottom of the blank and apply force downward and inward to separate it from the hump. So the difference with this method is just the position of the right forefingers. If it's flat, the resulting foot is short, so it's called the hidden method. If it's upright, the resulting foot is tall, so it's referred to as the visible foot method. Upright, apply force downward and inward. Wonderful. I'm gonna try to pull this one super thin. Ooh, I think I almost broke the clay just then. I'm going really, really thin, you guys. Oh! That was a test of my limits. I think it went pretty well. Definitely got some twisting going on over there. That was where I ran out of slip and my fingers started tugging on the clay. Not a bad pull though. I tried to be more daring on this one. Definitely are much thinner than my average pull. I'm almost afraid to touch it. I think for practice sake and for enjoyment's sake, I can try to make some fun shapes. A round jar or something. Sorry, I'm gonna block you with my big head. I like it. There we have it. Cute little jar. I don't know where to put this now. Let's go. Oh. Let it give it room to breathe. Give it room to breathe. Okay. Even though this shape is a little wonky, I feel pretty good about the thickness of these walls. I think this is gonna be my last one. Was going really, really well till about this point again. I don't really know how to diagnose that problem right now, but I am far from frustrated. These are some of the best pulls I've ever made. I think this is a problem I can easily fix with more practice and experience. remember my first day of pottery classes, the next morning I woke up and I was so sore. I was so sore, and I took the next day off even when I wasn't supposed to. I came back to class. I got told off a little bit by my teacher. He was like, you gotta come back. You gotta work through the pain. And after that first day, not only did I consistently show up to class, I never again felt any sort of soreness. I did strain my left wrist one time when I was like trying to center a really hard lump of clay. I put a burst of like muscle strength into it. That was not the right move. I've definitely come a long way. I was not supposed to create that extra skirt of clay, but that's okay. To close out today's session, let's read the chapter conclusion. The 5-step method has been used in the field of throwing since 2011 and has received good feedback. This method of throwing has greatly filled the theoretical gap of traditional throwing skills and has subjected throwing techniques to thorough analysis, making it easy for all people to understand and learn, and significantly improving the work of throwing teachers. Awesome. So that wraps day 3, centering and the 5-step method. Can't believe we're already past halfway. To be frank, I didn't expect to learn that much today. I thought that maybe since it's still the front half of the book that I might breeze past it and the exciting stuff would come later, but I definitely feel a difference in the way I throw already. It's kind of crazy how in such a short amount of time, just like 1 to 2 days of practice, I was able to make a breakthrough on an issue that I kept running into. And I think if I was in the process of forming any bad habits, that this put a stop to them. I'm gonna let myself keep 2 to 3 pieces from today, just my nicest ones as a little reward. I'm gonna keep the cross sections for reference. This one's nice, but I'm not attached to it. I was worried this video might be a little boring. After all, I did spend a full day wedging and half of another day just centering. I really hope this is helpful, especially for beginners and those who are trying to throw off the hump for the first time. You may be wondering what's next. When we come back, we move on to throwing straight-walled vessels like water cups and bamboo hat cups, and then to curved vessels like gongdaobei and flower vases. If you didn't know, I'm actually organizing a group of students to study at Master Zhan's school this summer from August 6th to 15th. Master Zhan is running a special curriculum for us called the Global Pottery Bootcamp. That's 10 masterclasses in throwing, trimming, underglaze, overglaze, slab building, molding and casting, sculpting, carving, glazing and raku firing, and object bonding, as well as daily throwing demonstrations and hands-on lessons with Master Zhan himself. Technically, June 30th was the last day to sign up for the bootcamp, but if you're just seeing this, we are extending the deadline so you still have a chance to join us. I'll have more information on the course and how you can still sign up in the description below. That's August 6th to 15th, 2025. All right, I think that's enough for now. I've got some cleaning and wedging to do.